You're checking out Pyro Radio this evening with me, Jay Fresh, for the show we call Jay Fresh and Friends. But you know me, you know it's not about me. It's about brand new music, artists, DJs, producers doing the most right now from the worlds of hip-hop and grime. It's the very first time I've connected with this artist. We've got him on the phone line. KWAZI Court right here. What's happening, mate?
What's up, bro? How you doing, man?
Yeah, really good, man. This, of course, is a phone interview. That is the way life is right now. So please describe to me your settings, because I can't see you. Where are you right now? What's happening?
Right now, I'm literally in my room, kind of just looking over South London, writing some lyrics, just chilling out.
Wow, so I caught you at the right time, man.
100%, 100%.
Well, let's jump straight into it, man. I mean, we're in this situation, lockdown, whatever you want to call it. Life is a little bit different. So for you, how are you finding things kind of musically and productivity-wise?
Yeah, you know what? I think as an artist, you always kind of feel secluded and you always kind of feel like you're in an artistic lockdown per se. So I guess now the whole of society kind of being at halt kind of makes you reflect a lot more, and it kind of gives you time to kind of go into the depths of your art a bit more deeper, because normally you're trying to express yourself through day-to-day activity. So since things have slowed down, I think I'm able to kind of, you know, reflect even more and kind of look at the narratives I kind of want to project. Sick.
So it's giving you that little bit more time for kind of reflection and critical thinking and that kind of stuff. So for everyone has their own kind of challenges or their own situation they're dealing with at the moment. So a question that I like to ask, and I want to know from you as well, is what have you learnt about yourself in this period of reflection?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think one of the things I've learned is that I probably lacked a bit of empathy for other people and their stories and what they go through. So I think hearing about so many different situations that people across the world, especially, you know, the black people across the diaspora and, you know, all the other races also supporting us, it was interesting to see, you know, how much empathy I didn't have. And I guess, you know, day to day before lockdown, I was unable to observe or really connect to a lot of the challenges humanity faces. So I think what I've learned is that I lacked a little bit of empathy. I was kind of self-centered in my own kind of, you know, view of the world. And now I've kind of, you know, been able to develop more empathy for others.
Yeah, man, that's a real interesting answer, because, you know, we're often, especially in the music game, we're often, you know, caught in the rat race about trying to stay on top of everything and follow what's going on, and obviously mix, master, write, release music, release schedules, all this stuff. Sometimes you do forget what is around you, and it is about that time that, in a weird way, there's a certain opportunity there because it's giving you more time.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, and if we look at you musically now, I hate. You know what? I hate when I see interviews. I hate when I see people talking to artists, especially for the first time, and they ask questions like, "Who do you sound like?" Like, don't ask me those dead questions. Don't ask me to say, "Oh, I sound like your favorite artist," or "I sound like the guy who's hot right now." Don't ask me those questions. But what I want to know from you really is talk to me about Grock.
Okay, yeah. Really
I need to know. I feel like I know a lot, but there's new things I'm learning every day. So teach me, bro.
Well, I think, you know, as an artist, you're always trying to. Well, as an artist, that I believe what an artist is, I think it's about finding your individual identity, sonically and aesthetically, and, you know, coming from South London and being, you know, a black man in London, you're kind of led towards certain narratives and certain sonics. But I wanted to be someone that was innovative and challenge status quo. So I knew I had to find my identity sonically and aesthetically. And the journey to begin to do that was, you know, trying to find a term that allowed me to understand my sonical difference. And because I'm obviously from South London, so, you know, grime is kind of a given. That is always the base of what I do. And just through experiences, I was exposed to rock music, and I felt that it would be interesting to kind of see an assimilation of the two sounds. So instead of just saying, you know, grime and rock, I felt that I could potentially create a term that would allow me to remind myself of my kind of individual kind of identity and it also would be interesting for people wanting to kind of get an interest into my world. So Grock, the word Grock is a combination of grime and rock, and it is also a combination of my experiences in South London with grime and around the city with rock.
Sick. That's dope, man. So how have you found the kind of reception to that? If you see what I mean, are people open and like, do you know what, this is dope, this is a term for your kind of style? Or is there like a little bit of cynicism there that sometimes you find with like some media outlets or some DJs or whatever? How have you found the reception?
You know, I think the reception, because I guess reception's based on the amount of people you're reaching. So I think there's 7 billion people on the planet, and I'm sure, you know, once I have scale, you know, there'll be people that can align with those different sounds and ideas. I think in London, the perception is good. Of course, anytime you're trying to bring something different to people, there's always going to be mixed feelings until they consistently see it. But I would say it's moderately good based on the current reach I have. But I'm, you know, optimistic about, you know, when more people hear it, more people will be able to connect to it across the world.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I always, as you know, like, there's so much music out there right now, so much white noise. Getting tracks and being an artist that kind of cuts through is a challenge in itself until you get in like crazy numbers and support behind you. So I like it when people kind of push that musical envelope, as I call it. Like, you find out what works for you, you know what's authentic and true to your sound, and you're going to run with that. And that might not be the super sound that's popping right now, but that it's not about that. It's about you following your journey at your pace to get to kind of your destination. Do you know what I mean? So with that kind of sound and with that fusion, I feel like that lends itself well to the live circuit and live performances. Have you found that?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. I think having, you know, a composition that includes, you know, live instrumentation, it definitely makes the live kind of settings a lot more expansive, a lot more dynamic. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the DJ and an artist, but I think, having those live elements definitely has, you know, a more dynamic sort of show live. So, yeah, I agree.
Definitely, man. And talking about live shows, are you still, or have you still been able to do the busking in the parks?
Yeah. When the weather is kind of a sort of, you know, random selection due to London's kind of weather habits, but man. When it is the right kind of temperature and weather, and I'm in the right energy to do so, I go to different places, you know, across London and try to connect to the public with the music.
So is that literally you just decided one day you're just going to go down to certain parks, certain areas, whatever, and you're just going to literally spray some bars or play a backing track off your phone or something? Or how does like the mechanic of that work? Because I'm intrigued, man.
Well, I mean, it came from, you know, a need to have a live element to my EP that's coming out, and I knew there were obviously limitations because of the virus. So I just wanted to, you know, have a chance to practice being in a live element and practice, you know, sort of my music connecting to other people. So in terms of how it works, you know, I just bring a portable speaker and a mic, some of my team, some cameras, and we just, pull up to the local park and just try to connect to people as much as we can.
I think that's a dope idea, man. And every so often you see those clips that go viral of like a guy like outside a shop in the States and he's rapping, and then like Common comes past and then he kind of starts trading bars with him or whatever. And that kind of element, like, I think that's dope. It's a dope outlet for you creatively, and you never know where that can connect or reach, because that could become the viral thing, you know what I mean?
100%. I think the origins of, to my knowledge, the origins of hip hop, you know, started in the Bronx, and it started in sort of abandoned warehouses. And as it began to sort of, as the artists began to entertain the people that were there, it began to pick up some steam and started to move. So I think the limitations bring, you know, urban artists back to the core of the genre, which is, you know, hitting the street and connecting to people and allowing that to expand.
No, it's dope, man. So let's jump into specifics about your music right now as well. You just touched on it earlier. There is an EP on the way.
Yes.
So how has that, is that wrapped up? Is that still a work in progress? How's that process for you at the moment?
No, the EP is done. I think we sent it to the stores and it's going to be out in July. It's just a combination. My music's mainly autobiographical, so it's a mixture of, the typical artist bravado and also stories of my life, essentially. So, but the bravado comes from a place of deprivation. People, when you don't have a lot, of wealth, you try to find something to believe in, something to be proud of. So I think poetry allows, us to, improve the self-image we have of ourselves. And it just so happens people like it. So, yeah.
No, it's dope, man, because if we look back into your musical history and we see, say we look at Trapstar 2 and then say compare it to a track like Nang, sonically and everything around those two tunes are really quite different. But they show your variation and range in terms of the music you put out. So when you drop singles, are you thinking I need to go in this direction or this direction, or is it just a case of you just drop in the style and tempo and energy of a track that you feel is right for that moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think coming from where I come from, grime is like a necessary genre to kind of dabble with in order to build your respect in your local community. So that's always going to be within my mind. But looking at the industry, looking at the world, I felt that I wanted to find something that the world didn't have, combining grime with genres I grew up to. So sometimes there is a strategic sort of, plan in terms of what I release and how I, attempt to go into the studio. But every now and again, I kind of just want to still connect to that part of myself. I feel like London is, it's clear that people kind of perpetuate, for a black guy, they perpetuate a certain type of character, and that seems to be what people consume. And that character still is within me, but I think having an artistic brush and broadening the dynamic of what it means to be a black guy and a rapper is sort of the energy it comes from in terms of, attempting to do stuff that don't typically sound like what you'd expect.
I mean, I've seen a lot of artists on their journey over time, man, and I think that's a thing that always, your energy and your outlook always strikes me as something that really helps build into longevity and a legacy and doing what you're doing, and doing what kind of feels right. So based upon that kind of variation of music that is you as an artist, I guess then that the EP, I guess something like an EP as a larger body of work is a great vehicle for that then, because you can go this way and you can go that way. So what kind of flavour can we expect on this EP? First off, how many tracks are on there?
I think there's about 8 songs. I really need to go back. I'm not going to lie. I think there's about 8 songs. I haven't looked at the track listing for a while. In terms of flavour, from a composition perspective, there's obviously what I would call Grock, which is grime influenced by rock and other different elements. And then, of course, you have the typical grime on there. You have drill on there. You have just a sort of a reflection of my musical taste. And I feel like, different sort of sonics bring out different emotions, and I think the reach on grime has its place, and the reach of rock has its place. So I think there's certain rock songs that reach an emotional chord that grime doesn't. So it's really autobiographical. It's really a human story, and a human story for me isn't singular in terms of narrative and topic matter and sound. So it's really a journey. It may not necessarily merge together if you're looking for sort of a single package and single genre, but if you're looking at a human experience, it has a perfect sort of synergy of sounds and topics.
That's dope, man, especially when you're saying an EP with, there's no rules, but an EP with 8 or so tracks on it as well, that's a lot. You can then cover all the areas, all the subject matters, everything that you want to get across in that project. Do you know what I mean? I'd much rather hear an 8-track EP from you than 3 tracks. Do you know what I mean? Because that's too quick.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I called it an EP because it wasn't necessarily, in the thought of an album, but it's just a reflection of my life up to this point. And the track listing was just super sort of organic. We just decided that this is an EP and these are the records, and there was no real thought in how many records there should be.
Yeah, it just kind of flowed like that. So the latest track that we've been supporting a lot right here at Pyro Radio is Trapstar 2. So talk to us about that record, please. The concept, how it came together. Was it a quick record to put together? Was it something that took a lot of time? Tell me that key information.
Yeah, first of all, appreciate you guys actually supporting that record. It's always great for, other people, outside of you and your team that support the record. So I appreciate that. Trapstar 2 is, okay, it's got the number 2, so it would suggest it's the second version of a song, which it is. I have Trapstar 1 on my SoundCloud. But we just wanted to, advance the composition and create something a bit more distinctive. Mm-hmm. The song is about, someone in the street who has a consciousness. So, people hustling in the street, there's kind of a, viewpoint of what they are like. And I feel like a lot of, artists perpetuate the idea of, I'm going to get money, that's it. This is where I'm coming from, I don't give a F. Mm-hmm. And in this song, it was more, from being around in certain environments and being involved in certain things, allegedly. There's been times where, yes, one will have to engage in different ways to source, wealth and resources. But in that period, one can still possess, a level of consciousness and morality, regardless of, the activity you engage in. So it was written about, someone I was seeing at the time. Mm-hmm. And while I was hustling at the time, and the conversations we would have. And in the chorus, it's, don't fall in love with a trap star. Regardless of, because of the lifestyle choice. And I think when you look at that, it kind of, if you examine it from an outside view, it kind of is someone who is doing what they're doing. And I think this is a key message, like for people that are doing stuff and define themselves by their condition. I still feel like you can hold a high moral, perspective, regardless of what you're doing at the time. So yeah, it's just showing the other side to, hustling, the other side to people that are doing things in order to try and advance their life.
Yeah, man, and I think records like this and the message are important. I feel like they're important because, again, people do take a stereotype, or they do see an obvious thing, or there's a lot of records perhaps saying one thing, which is great, and they could be great records, but I feel I'm always someone who always uses the word balance. So I feel like it's always good to have, tracks on a similar subject matter that just counterbalance that. Do you know what I mean? And they show the full kind of range of everything around those subjects than just the obvious or just what people want to see. Do you know what I mean? Like the glitz, the glam, the way to win or whatever. So I think that's dope, man. But obviously connected to the track, obviously you got your video as well. But a conversation I have with a lot of artists now that I think is interesting because I feel the narrative has switched. So I'd love your input. Is that when it comes to a video, is it always a case of you're going to go to a big platform, or for you, like you have done, is it a case of just building your own channel and your own brand from the ground up? How have you approached that side of things?
I think, from, within urban culture, I think we all understand, that there is it's attention economics for people. Anyone producing content, it's about initially getting that awareness and getting that attention. So logically, when you're on a minimal budget and your consumer habits are to go on certain platforms, logically you think, okay, that's where I'm going to go. It's going to, allow me to be seen. But after a while, you understand that you have to create your own island. And at some point, you kind of have to take a step to build your own channel. Now, that does come with different sort of scenarios, different sort of abilities, different capacities. But it's where I think an artist really needs to put their attention to, or where I put my attention to, in order for people to have a space to be able to absorb my world. But I think there's always, sort of a duality type mindset of, sometimes I'll put records out on a platform, and other times, and most of the time I'll try and build a platform myself. So I guess in the UK we have such a culture of going on platforms. It kind of suggests that you can't, sort of have the power yourself.
That so self-perpetuates it kind of thing,
Yeah, it is a battle, but it's something I just, take day by day. But ultimately, it's important to build your own world.
I feel ownership is a word that I'm always hammering on about. And I feel like if you can build your thing and you're in no mad rush and you're not chasing that, I call it like the Willy Wonka golden ticket. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, if you're not chasing that viral hit and you're in it and you want to do your thing, then yeah, ownership, build your brand, develop those networks, make those mistakes, and you learn who to use, who not to use in terms of, your mixing, your mastering, your artwork, your videos. That's value for you right there as an artist, If you don't have that information and you go somewhere and speak to a consultant, they'll charge you for that. Do you know what I mean? But you've got that information yourself. So I'm all for building the brand, man. And it's great to see people like yourself, artists, really getting behind it and doing it, man. Nothing but respect for that.
No, I appreciate that, man. It's always a struggle, and it's so many different emotions you go through while you're building your brand. And, I guess I realized that, I need to not be as entitled to wanting something to happen straight away, and understand that building is a journey, and don't expect to necessarily be in the hot spot straight away. But as I've, taken sort of online mentorship from different entrepreneurs outside of music, I've understood that, building is the correct way, and your time will come when your time comes through consistency. So, yeah.
100%, man, and some real wise words right there. Thank you so much for joining us here at Pyro today. Before you go, could you please introduce your brand new track as we play it right now?
Yes. Hi, I'm KWAZI CORT. You're looked into Pyro Radio. This is my new track, Trapstar 2. It is off my EP, Blood on the English Carpet, and this is what I would call Grock music.